Hello, I'm Deborah Shalette Wilson,
I'm Kathy McCommon.
And I'm Ann Rodelfs.
and we're the School of Soul. And welcome back to our series on the human developmental stages psychologically of what it is to be a human being. And we're going to now go over what the stage of woman is and what that is for all of us.
Well, the stage of woman is after the child stage. And if you'll recall from our last video, the child stage is focused on emotional engagement and deep plunging into the emotional world. But the stage of woman is about the mind. The stage of woman is focused on the fact that, well, she realizes we're walking around in our own collective mind, our collective consciousness. And as a result, everything in our experience is a communication of our very own souls or the divine, our choice. Either way, we learned out what's within us or what is around us and seen in a very profound personal way.
Like divine communication continually.
Mm-hmm. And with that information, it's your spouse, your true spouse, the divine is with you always, and she serves her spouse. Now, a lot of young women have this confused and think serving your husband is the greatest thing that a woman can do. But you have to get the right husband. It's our...
What if you marry a mineral?
Exactly. You get a lot of it. Yeah. But yeah, you get the right spouse, and she is just so passionate about serving the divine that she goes into the deepest, darkest places in our world and inside herself, in her love of her beloved. And so how that manifests is she is nurturing every child, no matter if they're stuck in the mineral stage and can be very violent, or is a playful animal, or an eager to grow child. She knows how to be with them all because she's with all of that within herself. And what this means internally is, just as women give birth to babies, she gives birth to the youngest and most traumatized parts of ourselves, meaning that they come into consciousness, these absolutely devastated by trauma parts of ourselves. And she embraces them, and she nurtures them, and she helps them grow psychologically, as well as physically, of course.
And that's what this painting represents to me is when I was a child and I wasn't sure what to do about the traumatic things that were happening to me, I would always go out into the night and look up at the stars and just feel a connection to something greater than me, something that I could feel not only physically but emotionally. And it was like it helped me as well mentally to decide what did I need to do the next day to kind of get through what I was going through. And so it was a kind of a whole body, mind, emotional experience. And it also gave me, I also heard, I guess, guidance as to what I needed to do to help myself deal with the things I was going through. So in a way, I was accepting all of these parts of myself as I was able to deal with my traumas as well. And that was something very precious to me, that I wanted to maintain that contact that I could feel when I looked up at the sky and just felt this presence and this essence that just came through me and nurtured me and helped me. And then I would go back into the fray, so to speak, and I was the nurturer to my siblings. One of my sisters had called me years ago, and she was singing this song that I used to sing to her. Remember when you sang me this song? Yes. Or I tell them stories. So it's, I don't know, sometimes it's kind of amazing to think about some of the things that I was able to do, but it's because I somehow was able to connect to that soulful part of myself and that connection to something greater that gave me strength to go and do what I needed to do. And so that's what she represents to me, is, that inner journey, because no one can do it for you. So that was that inner journey that I took, but not necessarily alone, because there was some presence there with me as well.
And what you're saying is so important, because the mineral stage is all about protocol is the most important thing, no matter how many people die. And the vegetable stage is all about following the script, fulfilling your role, rigid role. And the animal is the physical, is the prime thing to negotiate for. And the child stage is no, the heart. The heart is the center of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Where at the stage of the woman, everything is valuable when the divine is pouring through it. Everything can guide us when we see that hand of the divine on it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Well, when someone is living through and in this woman stage, there's a space there of non-judgmental. You're not judging the world through any of these other less developed eyes. So you're able to provide spaces for people that are going through that, because you know that lies within you too. So judgment just goes right out the door. And there's a place of safety, comfort, direction. I don't want to say leadership, because once we connect with the divine becomes our leader, not human beings. Those are not our leaders. Are the ones that help to set us on our path. Yes, we have those who walk with us, and that's really what the mother does, the woman does, is that she helps these younger stages birth into their next stage without judgment, and with compassion, and with kindness, and with love, but firmness too, because she's developed that in the child stage. So it's a very beautiful stage of development.
and embracing all that's within her, she knows how to nurture every single stage, being tough with the mineral stages and more gentle as people grow.
And all of doing that within herself as well, and making sure that she self-cares, not getting into the, well, I want everybody to like me, or I want everybody to get along. The wisdom to know that people are in different places, and sometimes people are not going to get along, and sometimes we need to have deep, heartfelt, difficult conversations about where we're at, so that we can grow from each other and learn from each other and quit reacting toward each other.
So unlike the mineral stage where everybody has to do what I say, she's very sensitive to, you need this and you need that, and you and you and you, and just so fluid in her movements to give people exactly what they need to progress in their growth.
Yeah, in order to be able to do that, it's being able to connect with people where they're at.
Yes.
Not where you want them to be, where you think they ought to be.
No expectations.
Right, but to be with people where they are, and also with yourself as to where you are.
Yeah.
So it's for me, that is a very precious place to be.
And the woman is within us all, but she so often isn't seen as she is. She's considered a child because her ways are very different than society, going with the status quo. As a woman, they do not go with the status quo unless it's useful as divinely guided. But women are often misinterpreted because they are so fluid in their movements.
Yeah, and nurturing, everyone doesn't need to be necessarily nurtured the same way.
Absolutely.
But it's the nurturingness that is missing when there's trauma.
So compare the vegetable who tries to be a woman but is stuck in a rigid role, compared to the true woman who's so fluid and knowing when to love people with hugs, like an animal, loving people through emotional words, like with a child, or loving people by acting out a role with the vegetable. It makes the vegetable happy.
In the woman's stage, they enter in more of a soul, as soul communicators. They master the art of soul communication, which is so beautiful because you can be with anyone and hear their soul and what that soul is saying, because you've learned your own. You've learned the language of the soul.
And feeding that soul and picking up the pieces of that soul and returning that soul to wholeness.
Mm-hmm. Thus, the School of Soul.
Okay, so that's the woman stage, and we're going to just continue on this video and move on to the stage of man.
Mm-hmm.
So while I'm getting this, Anne, you want to go into what this aspect is about?
The stage of man is one of higher consciousness. The communal consciousness that we all share is the focus of the man. And this is our symbol. You want to explain it?
Yeah, a lot of times people, when they look at this, they see a butterfly, and it's like, that's not exactly what it is. When I was painting this, I was thinking about my spiritual self and about, what we call the masculine and feminine aspects, and wanting to be able to integrate those into myself. And so the wings represent the polarities, the masculine, feminine, you might say. I don't know, could do the right, left sides of the brain, just different things. But to me, it's when we can accept all of who we are, then we can stand in the center space where the soul comes through.
And when I think of the vegetable stage, that is the split consciousness, the labeled good or positive, the above ground appearance, and then the unconscious, which is the opposite of what they learned is the good. In the stage of man, those are both sides completely conscious and being used in a useful way. And thus the wings. The man flies.
Mm-hmm.
Thus the Superman is the image.
Yeah.
The Christ self is coming through.
Yeah. So I call it living beyond the polarities. When I can live beyond the polarities, that's where I'm connected and to the space of my soul, and it's able to come through.
And again, the man is selfless. He's transcended self, and like Superman, is living to serve humanity and the divine.
And so that's the steps of a man.
When we're in the man stage, we're not afraid of pain anymore. We've pretty much gone past that. And we are in a space of servitude to humanity, and whatever that takes. Because in order for our own evolution, our own spiritual evolution, we know that it's a global, it's a group thing. And the more that we sacrifice, or the more we give our life to humanity's evolution, the more that we progress on our own evolutionary path.
And it brings to mind, I once knew a minister who was struggling with a young adolescent boy who was screaming and crying and biting and cursing and hitting and kicking, and he was just in a fit. And this minister sat on the boy, and the boy just kept at it, biting, hitting, kicking, and the minister, without budging, just sat on him and just calmly, didn't bother him, no matter how much the boy hurt him. He just sat there until the boy calmed down. And to me, that was my image of this stage of man, because they are so strong. They are relentless in pursuing what's right for the evolution of humanity. No matter what it takes, no matter how much they're harmed, no matter what it costs, they will do what they're here to do. Powerful stage.
Mm-hmm. And
of course, in relationships, the man and woman are side by side, helping the world in different ways.
Mhm. And so this is the concluding our series on the developmental stages of humanity and psychologically speaking.
Yes.
Because as we grow psychologically, then we're able to become more, not only human, but more humane, and allow more of our soulfulness to come through as we connect to all of the parts of who we are and bless them and nurture them and love them into a soulful life.
And just a reminder, we are all things. And to have all those things conscious, and we're using them to serve the divine.
Mm-hmm. So anyone would like to say anything in conclusion?
Well, I liked what you were saying about humane, because we see humanity struggling right now. And what do we lack? Humane. We lack being humane with each other, and showing true humanity for one another, and understand that we're all created equal. We all have our traumas. No one really escapes trauma, and we see it being acted out. But if we can look at these various stages of development when we look out into the world, perhaps we can look into the world with more compassion and with more understanding, and an ability to extend our hand to someone that maybe others find impossible to extend a hand to. That maybe perhaps they feel they're not worthy to have a hand extended to them, but they are part of humanity. They are part of us. The law of one says so. We all are one. And when we condemn and have ugly things to say and think about others, we say those ugly things and think those things. Actually, it comes back to us because we are one. So we really hope that these stages of development have given you some insight in these times that we're living in, so that you can be more humane with the people around you, and help and extend a hand and help others. And then, of course, we're here to help you too. So thank you.
Thank you.
And just one more thing, if you are uncomfortable with what's going on in our world right now, I would just encourage you to take that energy and look at where you are in your development and what you need to do to go to the next stage, and do it. And then use that same love toward your loved ones. Where are they, and how can you help them grow?
Yeah. Okay. So at the beginning of the series on human development, in the very first video, we read a poem to you by Rumi. And after, hopefully you've seen each of the video series, and I'm going to read the poem to you again. And I think now that this poem will have even a deeper, fuller meaning to you. And then when I get through, I'd like for Anne to do a little conclusion, of a little interpretation about the ending to just further the meaning of the poem. I died from minerality and became vegetable. And from vegetiveness, I died and became animal. I died from animality and became man. Then why fear disappearance through death? Next time I shall die, bringing forth wings and feathers like angels. After that, soaring higher than angels. What you cannot imagine, I shall be that.
Beautiful. And the whole thing about being stuck at these young stages of development and not being able to flow gracefully through them all is that we don't progress in our development, and we may even believe that that's all there is to humanity, when this poem says there is so much more. So I just want to encourage you all to make your human development a top priority. You don't know what you're missing. Thank you.
Thank you, and bye-bye. Until next time.